You're listening to the Joel Martin Mastery Podcast, your source of music news, stories, and 2-hour deep dive interviews with bands that have sold over 150 million albums. If you've been enjoying the podcast, please take a moment to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Now let's dive in to today's episode. Welcome to the Joel Martin Mastery Podcast. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. We are joined by a very special guest. He's achieved a level of mastery as the singer for the multi-platinum selling and #1 charting band Alien Ant Farm. They've sold over 5 million albums and they just released their new single, Reasons. So welcome to the podcast, Dryden Mitchell. Dryden, how are you? And is it true that you have a pet pig named Weezer?
I do. I'm guilty. Weezer was not named after the band. Weezer was named after the grumpy, bitchy neighbor from the movie Steel Magnolias, played by Shirley MacLaine. It's kind of an odd reference, but yeah, my pig Weezer has been spoiled her whole life, and she still refuses to enjoy the company of human beings. I can't say I blame her. But she doesn't really like people that much. So I thought Weezer was my wife and I thought Weezer was the perfect name for a grumpy ass pig that doesn't like people, just like Shirley MacLaine's character in Steel Magnolias.
See, I didn't even know there was another Weezer outside of the band. I assumed that you, as a music lover, named it after the band.
Yeah, well, sometimes I just say, yep, that's Weezer, and don't really tell the story, but because I do love Weezer, the band, with all my heart. I really, really do love Weezer. But my pig is not named after Weezer.
It's funny that this pig is grumpy because I've seen you feed it well, you give it some good scratches. It hasn't come around yet.
No, we've had her since she was very, very tiny. She's not tiny anymore. And yeah, no, she's just very sketchy. I've been around pigs that, are way more receptive to human contact and affection, and she's not about it. She will take my scratches every once in a while, and every once in a while I can get her lazy ass to kind of roll over if that's a thing. But yeah, it's more like cupboard love. Give me the food and get out of here. Maybe that's everybody when it comes down to it. Give me the food and get out of here.
How does one come into possession of a pet pig?
Oh, well, I think my wife had visions of grandeur a few years ago of wanting to start like maybe like a little mini farm, and like more like maybe a petting thing as a business proposition. And I think the more she dug into that plan, it wasn't. Yeah, it was just more work than maybe she wanted, or maybe than she thought, I guess. And we have a little bit of land, so um, I wasn't opposed to having a pig. We had Nigerian dwarf goats at one point. Um, we have a steep hill, and there's a lot of fires up here, so you got to keep your area a little tidy, or you get fined. And so the purpose of the goats was to kind of clear our hill. They cleared our hill in about
They're
a half a
labor goats.
day. Well, they were causing a bigger problem. They were turning our hill into a cliff because they just climb it all day long. So we were like, uh-oh, we're creating a bigger problem than we're solving here. Fortunately, we have the goats for a little over a year. They're really cool, but they are property terrors. So fortunately, my wife's cousin has almost like a compound not too far away from us. So he takes our male chickens. He took the goats. So without him, I don't know what we would do, because we've given him a few animals over the years. But no more goats, just Weezer. My wife just incubated seven chicks are behind me over here. Yeah, it's not like a farm by any means, but we got our own eggs, and we got Weezer down there. I like chameleons. I got a few chameleons, and I'm into building bioactive enclosures for panther chameleons and Jackson chameleons, and um, stuff like that, just to kind of keep my head out of the gutter.
So I thought you would get a kick out of this, that I know of another rock star that also has a pet pig. So Rick Jacket, guitarist from Finger Eleven, has a pet pig named Blackberry. I thought you would enjoy that.
Oh, we just did some shows with Finger Eleven, and I don't know that we didn't bond. I don't think I would have remembered, but we didn't bond over our piggy husbandry. Blackberry sounds like a pretty cool name, though.
Yeah, yeah,
Hopefully, Blackberry's cooler than Weezer. Weezer's a. I can I cuss on this
yeah,
podcast or
absolutely.
all right? Weezer's a bit of a cunt.
I uh I did an interview with Rick a few years ago, and him and his wife bought a farm, and they've been farming. So they have pigs, they have all these animals, and they have an Instagram account just for the farm. So
Just for the farm,
you get to
yeah.
see all these wild activities every day, including the pig, where it snows so much in Canada that the pig can't even get into its enclosure, and there's all these adventures with Blackberry the pig.
Oh man, yeah. No, I gotta maybe shoot me a on a side note. Shoot me the Instagram so I can follow their farm. I like that kind of stuff.
I'll do that. So the reason why I'm asking about the pig is when we scheduled this interview, I put out the bat signal to the Alien Ant Farm fans to send in fan questions, and there's just an absurd amount of questions that I'm going to sprinkle in over the next 2 hours. And the first question is from Rick Atha, and Rick says, ask him his pig's name. And then he says, ask him when is he going to finish the van and tell him I still have the disco ball.
Disco ball. What's the which one? Which disco ball? I've had a couple disco balls. I maybe I'm trying to think of that. And the van. Oh my gosh,
Are
I
you
have a
working on a
Dodge.
van?
Yeah, half-heartedly, it's a lot of money to resurrect these things from the dead. You know what I mean? And it's a '77 Dodge shorty. It's like a little hot rod. Chubby little gray. I call the van Moodang, and spent a good 60 hours in there grinding all the rust out, and with plans to make a wood frame in there and kind of get it going. Spent some money getting it running. The van is I kind of have a pin in that van. I went on tour and I didn't tarp it as good as I thought I had, and it rained, and there's a couple of holes in the up where the driver's area is, and it rained into the van, and it literally ruined all my hours of rust grinding in the back there because it's all hollowed out. It's just a big shell inside. Had to pull everything out of there, and I did spend a good lot of time excited about it, and then seeing that rust come back was like really defeating for me. Fortunately, I have a feeling it's not as bad as the original 40 years of rust I took off there. I'm sure it's not as. I'm sure I can get it out in a timely fashion. I just haven't. That really kind of like hurt my feelings for a minute.
It's
If
just
the
the getting
rain hurts your
started
feelings.
that is the hardest part, getting back at it.
Yeah, I opened it up and just seeing all this beautiful brand new rust. And it was so open and ready to accept the rust because it was all freshly grinded, just anyways, the van is, again, visions of grandeur, like my wife in the petting zoo. I don't know what's gonna happen, what's gonna become of that van if
It was going
I
to
end
be a
up selling
mobile
it.
petting zoo.
Well, I did have plan. I did think about pimping it out and putting a little system of sorts in there, and maybe like traveling to nearby venues and doing like a podcast of my own, where I could maybe through the name Ant Farm or whatever snag some musicians after sound check at a maybe the Glass House here in Pomona, or even just driving into LA and feeling like I could get a few bites with the name, Ant Farm, and maybe just having the van all decked out. Maybe, hey, you want to play an acoustic song? Maybe we can do a song together, that kind of thing. Again, these are thoughts that just float around your head when you're staring at a dead rusty van. We're not there yet. So don't feel threatened that I'm going to steal all your podcast views because I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
Oh, it's all abundance here. There's enough room for everybody, and you'd have to bring Weezer with you. It'd be the Dryden and Weezer podcast in the van.
Holy shit! I can hear the screaming now. She's a
Oh, she's
screamer.
loud.
Yeah. I should drag my phone down to Weezer right now, but then it would just turn into the Weezer podcast.
That's awesome. So we're going to do a full 2 hour deep dive interview. We're going to cover your life, your career, your discography. There's so much to talk about. There's so much to get to. You have so many exciting things happening this year that started last year as well. But I want to get started all the way back at the beginning. Where does this love of music come from? Is there an earliest musical memory that kind of stands out to you?
You know, I would have to say like my dad just carrying an acoustic guitar around with him everywhere he went, and a lot of noodling. He was a noodler, but in between the noodling, he was a good singer and had a couple cool like songs, I guess, and I just remember seeing him at like maybe like family gatherings of or just small little shindigs that I don't probably wasn't invited to. I just happened to live there. I was a kid and seeing seeing the power of him being able to kind of change a room with uh with the guitar and a few cool lyrics or something, it's something about, and it wasn't on any professional level, which made it almost maybe cooler, I guess. I always saw it as that, like, maybe, I don't know, I just saw it as like this weird like weapon for love or for coming together, I guess. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what turned me on to the whole thing, is that, oh, this guy who's all genuinely a good dude, um, I just watched him kind of change the room in a minute's time, and that was really weird and powerful to me. Um, so, and then obviously, when you fall in love with bands like the Beatles and storytelling, I actually really am fond of listening to Garrison Keillor, Prairie Home Companion. I don't know if people are familiar with Garrison Keillor, who's an author, but does these long-winded stories about a fake town that he made up. I'm sure it's similar to the town he grew up in the early '50s, called Lake Wobegon. And I remember those were on like NPR, public radio, and I just went after hearing his weekly. I guess before podcasts, it was his weekly radio storytelling time, and that was very infectious to me. The power again, feeling like this guy could like bring you into a totally fictitious world. I guess obviously he's an author, but his storytelling was more vibrant than me just reading the page. I loved hearing Garrison tell his own story, and that had zero notes in it, but all the impact of like a frontman or a singer to me. I thought Garrison was like the pinnacle of showmanship in a weird way, or being, I knew he was in these theaters, like you could tell, because longer than just like Wobegon stories, they'd have people come in and sing songs and stuff. He's in a theater with 5,000 people, and you can hear a pin drop while he's telling his stories. I'm like, wow, this stuff is cool. And again, I don't know, I just thought that was pretty impressive and pretty massive.
Can you remember any of the songs that your dad used to play on guitar?
I'm trying to think of.
Did he have a few bangers that he would go to really, wamboozle a room?
Yeah, he would. It was almost like quasi country. I wasn't never really moved by his music per se. It was the thing that flipped the script and made people like chatting, or made people a little more vulnerable. You know what I mean? We did record a couple songs together, my dad and I, with, I think Mike was even there, our drummer, and Ty, our bass player, of Yonder. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't have like song titles per se. Um, but yeah, it was cool stuff. And Dad was a vamper. He would just find the key of any old song, and you'd be into it. You know what I mean? It was like a half-hearted attempt at songs that you knew, Beatles songs and whatnot. I shouldn't say half-hearted attempt, but like just kind of figured out the key. We didn't know, the riffs of a song. You just knew what key we're in, and then you're off and singing. So that's kind of his deal.
And when did you go from just being a lover of music, enjoying seeing your dad play, enjoying the music of the Beatles, enjoying listening to storytellers? When did you go from that to actually picking up the guitar, singing, eventually songwriting?
Probably around 15, I would think, maybe a little earlier. I think I got my first guitar, you know, uh, maybe 12 or 13, but then it just kind of sat there like a tennis racket in the room, you never, I thought I wanted to play guitar and maybe still think I want to play guitar. And then you see, you see how involved it can be, or how, any instrument is so much bigger than anyone can imagine if you're really going to go down that rabbit hole. Um, so I got more serious, probably about 15, 16 years old. Um, Again, I would never tell a guitar player that I am a guitar player because I'm simply not. But that being said, I feel like I can tinker around, um, and get the sounds I want to be able to tell the story, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And I feel like I'm have no qualms about doing that with badasses around. You know what I mean? I've been fortunate enough to play with players I feel like I probably don't deserve to be playing with, but somehow I find a way to make it work, and I like that. I like that challenge. Sometimes it's intimidating, but yeah, the seriousness of music. I don't know if it's ever. I don't think it's hit me yet. I should practice more. I should know more. That being said, I enjoy doing it, when it's fun. There's been times when it's not, and it's weird to try and fit the square peg in the round hole. And then when you're a kid, you don't realize, oh my God, trying to make this silly little business into a livelihood. The older you get is can be in a weird way daunting a little bit. I'm not complaining. I'm grateful that we've had the longevity that we have, but it's weird to have this like hobby turn into something, that you feed your daughter with, or, I'm like, hold on a second. I don't know what were your intentions, Dry, when you first started all this? Was it this? Was it what you're sitting at where you're at now? I don't know. I don't think it was. So, you're taking it and you turn left here. Oh, we should have done this, or, all the hindsights that we have from uh from basically growing up with music, learning it and loving it and hating it and fighting with it and all the things that come with like a love affair, I guess, right?
Speaking of longevity, I believe this is Alien Ant Farm's 30th year as a band. Does it feel like it's been 30 years?
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh it goes by so quick, man. It doesn't feel like 30 years. It's weird. We've had a few breaks, obviously, like in that time. So it's not like we've just been torching the land with touring. So those pockets, you know, I try to think of like, so what was I think the Ant Farm's first show was on my 20th birthday. So yeah, I'm gonna be 50. Oh my gosh, it's been 30 years. You're right. I haven't counted it. I knew the 25th anniversary for Anthology had just passed. So yeah, it's been 30 years. It's weird. It's weird to think about it. Um, it doesn't feel that long, and maybe it does. I don't know. It's weird. The time is elusive, man. You could sit around and be bored for an hour, and it feels like forever. And then when you're in the thick of it and you're focused or you're just living your life, my daughter from age 0 to 12, it went by way too fast, and it's crazy to think on those terms. I always think that maybe we could have done more with Ant Farm in the 30 years. And I always forget the way my silly little mind works, I tend to forget the cool things about life in general. I got to try and work on that, but I tend to. I'm glasses. The glass is nearly empty right now. We got to figure something out. We got to figure it out. But I know my intentions are good and from the heart. But I definitely have I tend to like hang that brow a little low sometimes. So anyhow.
Well, over the next 2 hours, as we honor your career, I have a lot of reminders here of the amazing things that you've achieved over your career. We have a fan question from Eric Hill, and the question is, what artists and albums most influenced you from birth to present? And then he says, send him my love, big hugs, and congrats on sobriety. Tell him Chicken says, what up?
Oh my gosh, that's cool. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Artists and
What?
albums most influenced.
What's up, chicken? Um, that's so weird. Because you think like the ones you think something that you listen to every day, or so I'm like trying to peel back. I don't listen to music. I just recently started to listen to music again. I'm more of that spoken word guy in the Garrison, or even like the likes of like Howard Stern from 2005 to 2000 and about eight and a half. I'm very specific with my Howard Stern intake. There's the time when he went to Sirius XM radio. I have to only mention him because he's just an entertainer, and I have to lump him into music in a weird way. What like kind of like what do you see in these people? Why do they become these mega things? And it's deeper than him being like this narcissistic, chauvinistic, all these things that he's been called over the years. I've I've seen him kind of grow into just a badass interviewer, and basically almost like a symphony conductor of crazy people. So about let's leave Stern out of it. I know it doesn't count because people want to know the music.
But you have to associate Stern with music because he interviews incredible musicians and he has some magic way of making them feel insanely comfortable so that they open up to him.
Yeah, it's been rad. He's just okay. Yeah. Let's pin it. Sorry, I brought up Stern, and then I'm like kicking him down the curb. My first love, real love, was the Beatles' White Album that I just bought recently. I went down the rabbit hole of finding which pressing I should get. I have a little vinyl player, and I built a little wooden thing I'm all proud of that it fits in. Um, anyways, I went down that rabbit hole to find I think a 1982. They did a remastering of it, and I'm at 3 in the morning. I'm listening to my AirPods of which edition or which pressing I should get. Anyways, I did get the 1982 repress of the White Album recently, and it's everything I wanted it to be. It's such a good record. It's so um, eclectic. It's so void of what they think people want to hear, and it's so full of what they were just doing and feeling at that time. I'm a huge fan of music that makes you feel good. I think when you try to make something is when the wheels kind of fall off. So I love the Beatles for that reason. I'm sure they sat in the room plenty of times and were like, let's write the hit. But I don't know that they had those moments for the White Album. It's just the weirdest, like throwing paint on the wall record of all time for me. They've written crazier records, but that's the one that when I was a child that really, made me think that these guys are wizards, and their wizardry is music. Edie Brickell and the New Bohemians will always be. She's she's my top tier singer of all time. Maybe storyteller too. That her first record, "Shooting Rubber Bands at the Stars," is like the pinnacle for me. Um, she did and if those for those aren't familiar with Edie Brickell, they know the "What I Am is What I Am, and You What You Are." Oh, what that was like her big hit in whatever in the '80s or something. Do you know of her at all or?
Just that song.
Yeah. So, which is fine, you know. I mean, that's what brought her to the public eye. You know, she didn't have hits. She went on to marry Paul Simon, um, which seems fitting to me um, because she's a badass and she married Paul Simon. Good for her. Her second record is called "Ghost of a Dog," and I have to like that record more than the first. And it probably saw zero uh, public adoration, you know, and that's okay too. I guess selfishly, you, I think some people like to hold their artists like close to their heart or almost upset when they become famous or big, you know, which is weird because I always thought that was a little weird when in the rock and roll game, like if you'd heard, like I remember when Nirvana was getting huge, I was almost like lame to like them anymore or something in certain circles, I guess. But yeah, Edie Brickell, the Beatles. Um, I mean, you can just go down the list of the Police. Um, Trying to think, Smashing Pumpkins, the first record, Gish, and they're almost like a different band after that first Gish record. It's almost treat I I fall off of bands like TV shows or something. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is the moment in time that I really love, and I can like not to say I don't like Smashing Pumpkins, but it's just for me it's Gish, and I don't really want to hear anything else. Um,
Man, they have some other great albums though.
they do.
Melancholy and
I know.
uh,
It's fine. It's for other people.
Siamese
Um,
Dream.
I am. They're all better songs than Gish. I'll back to back. You'll be like, I'll go, yes, that's a better song. But for some reason, this is the this is the little recipe that is like Smashing Pumpkins for me. Um, Another band that I felt that way about is Rocket from the Crypt. They have a record called "Pain is a Fragrance," and who Mike showed me that record. Our drummer Mike's been responsible showing me a lot of music in the very like beginnings of the bands that sprouted and stuff. So I got to thank him for that. Um, but yeah, Rocket Pain is a Fragrance is this weird. It's almost like a demo, and then again, I kind of fell off. They became a way better band than the record that I love. It's something weird about quirky about almost when a band doesn't quite figure it out yet. To me, that's almost like the cooler part.
Sometimes it's a moment in time. It's when you discover that album. So it has as much to do with you and your life as it does the music itself.
Yeah, exactly.
So you and Alien Ant Farm are associated with California, but as a Canadian, I have to ask the following question. I've heard rumors that there is some Canadian blood that flows through your veins.
My dad's from Rocky Ford, Alberta. Um, Went to Vancouver in his older years. University of British Columbia. I spent and then so yeah, my mom's Mexican. My mom's from Chihuahua, Mexico. My dad is Canadian, and so they met in the middle, and then 1976, I came around hanging around these guys in California, born in Redondo Beach, born at home. I think my mom was said hospitals are for sick people, and she wasn't sick; she was having a baby. So maybe that's why the goofy ass MFer that I am now is all because I was born at home. Um, but yeah, father's Canadian, mom Mexican, so I'm a Canamera Mexican right here.
We can claim 50% of you from your dad's side.
These days, you can claim all of me, man, if you'll have
Come
me.
on down. We have a question. This is a way back question from Heather Rubio Garcia Moreno Hopkins. That's quite the name. And Heather says, does he remember bumming cigarettes and smoking by the bleachers, trying not to get caught by the campus supervisors?
Say her full name again. That's
Heather
ridiculous.
Rubio Garcia Moreno Hopkins.
Heather Hopkins.
Did you
Do I
ever bum
remember?
cigarettes by the bleachers, trying not to get caught by campus supervisors?
I was probably smoking weed too, but it's got to be true. If I'm trying to think of the bleachers though, doesn't make sense to me. But uh, but yeah, I was there. I was there. Guilty as charged.
So I normally ask my guests what's the first concert they ever attended. But from having interviewed your drummer Mike Cosgrove a few years ago, he shared a story that you went to a Michael Jackson concert way back in the day, and years later you found out that your friend Dave Buckner from Papa Roach was also at that same Michael Jackson concert. Is this true?
Yeah, that was the Victory tour. I think it was the last tour with his brothers, and it was at Dodger Stadium. My mom took me. Um, so yeah, that was a trippy little moment in time. Um, to see a show of that like magnitude at whatever age I was, 9 years old or something like that. Um, and to think of the irony or the coincidence, I guess, of seeing that being my first show, and then us like sprouting and exploding in this firework kind of way from a Michael Jackson song is crazy to me. But I
Who
will say, before Michael Jackson, I did go and see Sesame Street on Ice, and that's the pinnacle concert right there. I haven't seen a better show than Sesame Street on Ice, and probably never will.
it's all been downhill from there.
Yeah, even the MJ, I'd have to maybe say.
So let's dive into your career with Alien Ant Farm. There's a lot to get to here. So before Alien Ant Farm, there was Brother Vibe, The Color Red, and Dragonfly. Can you share how those bands tie in to eventually Alien Ant Farm?
Oh, well, we were just our scene was what it was, and out here in the Inland Empire. In those years, um, I feel like we had a little bit of a scene. There were some cool bands out here, um, and good shows, really. Um, I tend to favor it over LA for in that time frame of like the late '90s. Um, I think that I think Mike and Terry were trying to find something different, and Ty was this ridiculously good. He wasn't even the bass player in his band, and he was this phenom bass player that was playing these Primus songs and everything else under the sun. Mr. Bungle, Sting. Um, I think Ty could have pulled off Alien Ant Farm without me or the guys. I would say should say. I think that maybe Ty singing and playing bass and having Mike and Terry could have been a force to be reckoned with just as a trio, or Ty playing bass and singing and having two guitar players, something in that vein. Um, and so yeah, I was immediately kind of, well, I should say immediately, but I think everyone was trying to look for something different, and that's was like maybe like a side project or something, and looking around at who's the most interesting or achieved player in our little areas. Granted, there were a lot of rad people in our pool, um, and I felt like it was kind of this weird little the dark horse. You know what I mean? I can kind of came from acoustic singer songwriter vibes, a lot more feminine than the rock and roll kind of the when I think of rock and roll frontmen. Although in rock and roll you see the glam side of things, but typically, in my opinion, has the more like masculine hard rock voice that I knew I didn't have. So I've always been a little insecure about my comings and goings in music projects and stuff. I also know that I have a unique voice too. So I try to remind myself of those things at times. But but yeah, that's kind of how we started, and just writing songs unbeknownst to our other bands at first. I think we even said maybe we'll come out before the Slipknot days, or before we knew maybe we'll come out in masks and stuff, and so we can just kind of under the radar. We can be this cool band that nobody really knows who it is, type of thing. But I don't know how serious we took that either. Once we had a set's worth of music, we were like, yeah, let's just be a band, and yeah, our first show was over here on my birthday, like I said, my 20th birthday, at the university. UCR Riverside had a venue called the Barn, and they did a lot of cool shows there. A lot of nationals came through, so it was a nice venue for us to kind of start our little path at home. We were very conscious to not flood our hometown. um I understand it, especially when you're in the Midwest or certain areas where it's harder to get to other cities. But we were conscious of not playing our hometown every week, or how many times can you ask your friends to support your show or come to your show? So we treated it like another city, and I felt like, every 4 months we'd hit our city of Riverside. And I think it for us being a cool, catchy band, and very cool live band, I think that, and not playing all the time here, um, was a cool advantage and a cool look. I think that all our shows benefited from that, and we all of a sudden, these, in a weird way, I don't know that we were competing with the nationals, because when Incubus comes to town or whatever, I mean, that's the big deal. We weren't at that level, but in a weird way, at the Barn, we kind of like almost were in certain times. So it was rad to kind of make sure that we didn't flood Riverside too much. It was kind of near and dear that we wanted to keep it like, oh my gosh, Alien Ant Farm's playing, not oh my god again. So the beginnings, it was cool that we thought about it, and kind of, we got to get out of here. We got to get, not because we hated it. We got to get out of here so we can come back here, in a weird way.
You've mentioned your unique voice. It's very distinct. It's authentic. Any Alien Ant Farm song, the moment I hear the voice, I know it's Alien Ant Farm. And I think it's a mix of your delivery, your tone, your timbre. There's a bunch of different things. How do you think you developed such a unique style of singing?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
It's your,
that's an
sorry,
easy
it's your
answer.
phrasing as well. It's also the phrasing of how you deliver your voice.
Yeah, I think it's partly to do with Alien Ant Farm. Was in the beginning times, was like, I felt like, was a more technical band than a lot of rock bands. Not saying that there weren't technical bands out there. Everyone knew, like, Mr. Bungle and all these things, and I'm not trying to compare us to that. But in the earlier years of Ant Farm, it was almost this like jazz, metal, anything goes kind of vibe. And a lot of times between our rhythm section and the riffing, which was always cool and interesting, I found it weird. Like, it was almost like double dutch, where do I fit into this? How do I jump in with without disturbing the piece, but also making mine? I mean, obviously, you think of vocals, it's kind of like that cherry on top, where it's the whole thing in a weird way. But the Ant Farm was not that. It was kind of everyone's stew. And I think that with our own smarts and our own recommendations from people like Jim Wirt, who produced us in the early years, along with Incubus and Hoobastank, a bunch of way too many great bands to mention his whole resume. But Jim Wirt was and along with Jay Baumgartner too at NRG and other people. But it was almost like, how are we gonna tame this down? Um, Again, I'm veering off of why I'm the singer that I am, I guess, but I again the early years I felt that I felt like it taught me timing and syncopation, rather than just carrying out phrases like a normal song would. Not to say that music's music. We've all heard every facet, every kind of way you can do this stuff. Very rare that someone comes along these days where it's truly like different. And I'm not saying that Ant Farm was all the way different, but it was a little different. And so I would have to say that almost like my phrasing came and uniqueness came from being in love with someone like Edie Brickell and the singer songwriter being like kind of thrown into this technical jazz metal band that we're not technical jazz metal anymore, but we did kind of come from those areas. When it's weird when you love everything from Slayer to Sade, um, and all bands do love Slayer
I
and
think that's
Sade,
the full extreme,
but we were,
Slayer to Sade.
yeah, Slayer to Sade. But and I know other bands love it, but we were putting that into, you know what I mean? We were putting those into the music, not just listeners and like lovers of it. So in a weird way, I don't know if we were shooting ourselves in the foot, but it was kind of it, in that ode to the Beatles' White Album. It was like we were writing some heavy ass music one minute, and then I'm bringing this 2 chord Death Day riff to the guys. I'm like, wait, what do we do with this? When, what's our style? What's our, what's the gimmick here? And I don't know that we had one other than just throwing these up onto the wall and seeing if anything stuck. And we might be guilty of that still, for better or worse. So I think Ant Farm developed me in to why I am the way I am, or why I sound the way I sound, along with just, again, the people I love. And when I sit down, just when I throw something on loop, where do I want to go with it? I always kind of usually typically will find a melody, something phonetic, just something like I'm into the pattern before I'm into the story, and I've done it both ways. But I always usually find my patterns first, and then just go from there.
I have some kind words sent in from someone that was there way back in the day that has experienced this Alien Ant Farm adventure with you from the very beginning. This is from your drummer, Mike Cosgrove, and he says, I've had a unique view watching Dry grow and develop as an artist and as a friend father in person. Starting at the age of 14, we've shared almost all of our best times together and some of the worst. He's always been there as a friend and teammate, especially when it counted the most. I'm looking forward to much more of it all in the future. Sin más partes malas, which I think is without any more bad parts. That's from Mike Cosgrove.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we've all just we've seen so much stuff together. It's weird. It's this weird tangle. It's this weird marriage that, men have, and it's so like it's extremely trippy to travel and do nothing in a sprinter or a bus or a van for hours and hours. Everyone knows each other's bullshit. Everyone knows. Um, we've seen it. He's totally right. We've seen so many like crazy rad moments. We went through bus crash together, broken necks, all the weird, wonderful things that make the story complete and cool in hindsight. In the moments, sometimes not so cool. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of, there's nothing romantic about this stuff when you're like looking close in on it, and just almost like when you look back and see this cool painting, you're like, oh, okay, this is badass. It really is cool. So yeah.
Being in a band is like being in a marriage, but instead of it being difficult with just two people, you have to make it work with four people.
And more than four people, you know what I mean? Because throwing like managers in there and uh and we have a friend, Michelle, who's our money girl, who's been there since the beginning. She's like our merch person. Now she's like, handles our finances, and we're all we're all rooting for each other, And that being said, there's just a day is a day, and you wake up weird and awkward, and we know we've wronged people in the past, and that stuff's like in a weird way still there, and it's hard to navigate this stuff, and it's it's weird. It's weird. Someone mentioned the sobriety thing, and it's like I don't know if it's easier or harder to do it with a clear lens. I see bullshit more clearly. I see the good things and the bad things more clearly too, from my end. I'm happy that I'm nearly 50 and we're still giving it a go. You know what I mean? And it's not quite embarrassing. Um, to say the least. Do you know what I mean? My favorite part of doing all this is sitting in my room, sitting at this chair where I'm at right now, and like looping something that one of the guys gave me, and sending it almost like a little gift. Like before they even, of course you want someone to like it, but it's like sending this MP3 with something you put on top of their vision, or you added an ear to their clay sculpture, is a fun thing for me. And it's, again, goes back to like thinking, how the hell are we going to make money doing this stuff? Because I don't know that it was ever my intention, and it's weird how things shift and change. And um yeah, if I had my druthers, I'd kind of want to just stay at this seat right here. But we do have rad shows. We do have good shows, and I do enjoy them. The people that come, the curiosity that's still there for Ant Farm is undeniable, man. I think that there's been years where I have not wanted to do it for my own selfish, weird reasons, and then all of a sudden we're in the middle of a show, and I'm like, wow, people are still here, dude, and they're like not making me do it, but like it's trippy that a stranger can create this like love again. That's a weird one too.
Not only do you have some great Alien Ant Farm shows coming up, but you've been booked for some of the greatest festivals on the planet. I mean, that's exciting as well.
It is cool. Festivals are a trip. They're not to say cons, but you get to perform in front of tons of people that might not necessarily be fans of your specific band, because all of a sudden you this big summer camp of 150 bands or whatever, and the people that enjoy you gravitate towards your stage or whatever. But yeah, the big crowds are cool because you're trying to gain, or it's a weird one. Sometimes you feel um like you got to try and prove yourself in some weird way for this big crowd. And I'm not coming from the world that I don't know if I really am interested in proving anything to anyone. Maybe I should flip flip the way it's thought about. But anyways, in my own head, I'm like, maybe I'd rather do a show. You know what I mean? A proper venue kind of nighttime gig, as opposed to 1:32 in the afternoon at a festival. I've had great times at festivals, so I'm not knocking it at all. I'm grateful that we're in those positions. But that's how I kind of see them. I don't know. Is there something to prove here, or why don't I just have fun and ignore that side of my mind? But that's kind of always creeps in. I don't want to prove myself or whatever. So, but we're fortunate.
So between 96 and 98, you guys release a couple demos, and then you release your full-length debut in 1999. It's comically titled Greatest Hits before you've had any hits, which is awesome. When you think back to that album, what thoughts, memories, emotions come back to you now with that album having really kickstarted this journey you've been on over the last 30 years?
Yeah, we're just trying to make a solid, cohesive piece of art and enjoy it and get some miles out of it via, that was our, it's basically like a commercial for your band and touring and all the things that come with it. Trying to put our best foot forward with the help. The thing I think about the most is a friend of ours that passed away, named Miguel, who had a big deal to do with that record. I wish he could seen how we've progressed and taking it. He was almost like a member of the band in a weird way. And so when I think of that record, I think about Miguel more than I do think about even the music. And he was so cool. I remember him working at a really nice studio. We were trying to finish up because we'd done like portions of it with Jim Wirt at 4th Street Recording, which was an amazing, cool studio that where the Beach Boys used to do their thing, and we weren't quite finished with the record, and we kept adding to it and subtracting from it and trying to make it whatever we were trying to make it. But Miguel ran a really nice studio in LA. I'm trying to think of the name of it. I shouldn't even, but well, he's passed away now. He can't get in any trouble. But he used to close the studio down at night, and we'd wait like down the street. And when the clients left, like we'd go into the studio and record and mix and do our thing. And back in those days, uh, not to age us, but Pro Tools was not a thing yet. If it was, there was only like two people doing it. But so getting on these big mixing consoles, we're all writing down where every knob is because we're about to ruin someone's wet paint, basically. You know what I mean? Or walking in, leaving a session as is, leaving for the night, expecting to come back with everything the way it was. So it was a lot. And then just the pressure of knowing that you're not supposed to be there. Um, Miguel was working long hours, as you can imagine, because he's running the studio in the daytime and then running it at night. When we would leave, finish doing what we were doing from midnight to 6 or 7 in the morning, Miguel we'd have to put everything back the way it was. Um, Miguel would go down the road, go home for a minute, and come back like he's all fresh and ready to go back to work. So the amount of effort and weird shenanigans that it took from him and us, but mostly him, to pull that off was like, it's so cool and memorable, and it speaks to like what a cool person he was, and it makes me wonder why, all the things. The guy had so much promise, and he took his own life, and it's weird to me that he was just way too young to whatever was tormenting him. I had no idea about. It's so weird when stuff like that happens. You almost take offense to it because I feel like I was a better friend than than maybe I was, because you almost feel like why wouldn't this person reach out to me, or you almost take it in this weird personal way. Um, but those are the things I think about with the greatest hits, and Jim Ward. It's shitty for me to include Jim, who was like the raddest producer ever. Um, but something like Miguel taking his life and doing all these other things, it takes such a huge part of my thought away from, Jim was awesome at, like, Jim Wirt was the first guy that knew we were this weird jazz metal band and wanted us to chill out a little bit. I think he even said, "Why don't you go home and write a punchy, kick-ass rock and roll love song, and we came back with movies, and and it was great because I remember it wasn't like it needed rewrites and rewrites. I mean, I remember Jim just going, "That's what I'm talking about." That that's what I want you guys to do, and so it was awesome that we delivered, and it was even more awesome that he saw that we could, and so yeah, I should actually wedge that into my memory of because I mean without Jim, we'd still be maybe jazz metaling out over there in the corner.
And Jim at that time was fresh off of success with Incubus, is that correct?
Some Hoobastank stuff, the Incubus Science record he had done that we are all just in awe of that Science
The
record, man. Again,
musicianship on that Science album is bananas.
again, again, back to those moments in time when Incubus has grown and become this other band. For me, the Science record is like a whole nother band of them, So, anyways, yeah, that was a good one.
We have a fan question about that album from Tony Norris. The question is, what's your favorite deep cut from the Greatest Hits album? I have a soft spot for Nova Hands. Also, I'm still waiting on the studio version of Tater Tots Jerome.
I'm trying to think of the songs on songs that became like we did some of those songs on the Anthology record. Nova Hands is a good one. I might have to say that in fear of naming a song that's already like that became another one on another record. Nova Hands was a cool song. Tater Tots, that song, I'm trying to remember the riff. We always have these like weird working titles that obviously change once it's become a song. I can't remember. Terry or someone would have to play like a little riff off of it for me to remember something like that. I remember the title more than the song, so it must have not been that great of a song.
Let me know if this is correct. So, you guys, as you're gaining momentum, you become friends with the members of Papa Roach. They get signed. They have the big breakthrough album. I have it here, Infest, from the Dave Buckner interview. They have a ton of
Dave,
success.
Dave just was Dave just was at my house for a couple days about a week ago, my daughter's birthday. He flew out for a podcast, but it was cool. Like Dave and I have been. Sorry, I didn't mean to
No, go
derail what you
ahead.
were going to say, but
Go
no, but
ahead.
it was great. It was great to see Dave and in all of his glory. He was I shouldn't say my favorite because I loved Papa Roach for everything they did, but I loved him as a drummer in that band. He just brought it, and they just had this. They still do, but they just had this swag that I felt like Dave was a part of this. That the way they sounded like a whip just was because of him. But yeah, Dave. Oh my gosh, Dave has been sober for a long time, and I used to call Dave totally messed up. Just drunk dialing, kind of wanting to chat when I'm all fucked up, and Dave always took my call, and I can't say I would do the same for a lot of people. It's weird that I think he knew in the year before I was kind of climbing out of my stuff. It was rad that that guy would just answer the phone at 2:45 a.m. There's Dryden calling. Got nothing to say, but like, dude, whatever we're crawling into. Sometimes, some days I'd have him been having some kind of breakdown or some important thing that was probably not even important. It was just there because I was hammered. But he's a real one. Dave Buckner is the real guy, and there's not a lot of those people out there. And yeah, he was. Again, he wasn't even pushing his sobriety on me. He'd just take my call, and that was important too. Don't know why I wanted to derail you with that bit of info, but there it is.
Well, I enjoy the derailment because I'll get back to Papa Roach, but I saw the picture that you posted about Dave visiting you, and I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be doing my job if I didn't reach out to another rock star that was in your picture. And I have kind words from Marcos Curiel, the guitarist from POD, who was also in that
Hmm.
picture that visited you. I think he was a part of the podcast as well. And Marcos says, Dryden, my brother from another mother. I absolutely love him. He's funny and quirky with a big heart. Such a soulful voice and crazy talented. Over the years, as I've had the pleasure to get to know him more, he's a passionate chef, an animal lover, and a kick ass family man. I'm so stoked that we're friends. He's the real deal, nothing but love and respect. And he gives you a salute like that. So that's from Marcos from
Oh my
POD.
gosh, that's really cool, man. Thank you, Marcos. That's badass. Yeah, we it's crazy the little circles and little gangs that bands form. There's been a few um, connections along the way that we've made, and I wish we had more because I felt like we were again we were like little gangsters in our own little circle, and so we did vibe with certain people and we didn't vibe with a lot of people, and we were cocky and arrogant and all these things that maybe make a fiery person or a cool band what they are. Sometimes maybe a little asshole needs to be in the music, but as I age and stuff, I totally appreciate the friendships that we've managed to hold on to, because Lord knows I've probably burned a few bridges being a drunk guy, and vice versa, man. I've met some terrors out there, and I've met some super super kind people too, man. Music, like any other art, seems to attract the most beautiful people in the world, and it also attracts like the dregs of humanity, man. And sometimes they're the same person, and it's weird. It's wild out there. And Marcos, Dave Buckner, all of Papa Roach, but all of POD, but super cool guys, man. They've band like Lit. We've shared some cool moments with Lit, and again, this is our alumni from those times. But there was tons of bands back then too, so it's kind of cool that there's five or six or seven. Some I'm not naming here, but that we still mingle with is pretty cool and special.
Let me know if any of the following is incorrect. So you guys and Papa Roach become friends. They have their big success with the Infest album. They start a new label. Alien Ant Farm becomes the first band signed to that new label, which is also a part of DreamWorks. And then you guys release your debut major label album, Anthology, in 2001. Is that all correct, or is that the fake news?
No, that's it, man. I think Papa Roach and us bonded trading shows. Northern California, those guys were just a menace to any venue up there at that time, and we did pretty well out here in SoCal. Um, um, so we started trading shows. Who you open up for us down here, we open up for you up there, kind of thing. Try and steal some fans and spread a little further. And I think maybe apparently not jokingly, but we had always said, there was buzz about both those bands gonna pop. Reading in the trade magazines like Hits, and there was articles and stuff written in trade mags that Ant Farm was going to be the biggest bidding war in freaking history, that kind of weird stuff, and then it kind of in real life wasn't happening. Um, it was a weird time, but I remember, saying a few times with the bands with Papa Roach that we whoever got signed first was going to like bring the other band with them, which is awesome, at that time Papa Roach was so busy and so exploded that the fact that they like held true to that, man, is insanity, because I could easily see that just not happening, because you're trying to like keep your own you're trying to keep your lawn clean, man. You can't be like over here with the neighbors, and so the fact that they did it is impressive and crazy, and speaks volumes on how much they can take in as far as work ethic, and also how much love and appreciation they have, almost sharing the wealth. When you get these moments, you the instinct is to take it and guard it and have it be yours. It's only yours. So it's crazy, when I think about it. Again, it's one of those things with like Dave talking to me in my most fucked up vulnerable moments. me saying I can't say I'd do the same thing, I don't know that I would have been able to do what Papa Roach did with my own mental bullshit going on. Again, I'm like, okay, you've given me a gift, this record company or whoever. I don't have time to figure out someone else's situation. I'm too like nervous and buried into my own stuff, you know. So it's pretty cool what they did.
They were true blood brothers with you guys.
Yeah, and not to say I wouldn't do it. I don't mean it like that. I just don't know that I would have even been able to do that. You know what I mean? So it's pretty crazy.
It reminds me of the promise between Eminem and D12. They said whoever makes it big first will come back for you. Eminem goes on, becomes the biggest artist in the world, and he starts a label just like Papa Roach. He starts a label, signs D12, and then D12 sells millions of albums.
Yeah, yeah. D12 we were fans, and they were Ant Farm fans. I remember Proof when we were in Detroit a few times, where always Proof came out and sang with us, and weird these little things. An important guy in more than just Detroit, but a guy named Mikey Eckstein was was a manager of ours for a while, and knew all those fools and brought us to many weird and wonderful situations in Detroit. Fond memories.
This episode has been brought to you by the Women in the Music Industry podcast. It's hosted by music producer Rob Wells, who has worked with global superstars like Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, and Selena Gomez. Through his 1-hour interviews, he shines a spotlight on the remarkable women who are breaking barriers and making their mark in the music industry. Some of his notable guests include Morgan Lander of the multi-million selling metal band Kitty, and Pam Shane, who co-wrote Genie in a Bottle for Christina Aguilera. If you're a fan of the Joel Martin Mastery podcast, you'll love the Women in the Music Industry podcast, which is available on all platforms. Anthology comes out in 2001. There's 3 singles: Movies, Smooth Criminal, and Attitude. The album goes gold and platinum in 5 different countries, including Canada and the US. It goes on to sell over 2.4 million copies globally. Do you remember receiving the news that it had gone gold, had gone platinum, had sold 1 million copies?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of where I was, type of thing, you know. Again, you're in the throes of it, so this stuff, I wish I could enjoy it more as it was happening in real time, but my head was so immersed in how's my voice feel, or what, you're all of a sudden you're like, this hobby turns real, and you want to be responsible for it. You want to have fun. You want to make sure you don't look like a fool. So yeah, like my head was a little riddled with my own bull crap to appreciate the accolade in real time. I remember, um, I think we were at the House of Blues in Los Angeles doing something for DW, maybe. Uh, it was a drum. It was a drum, or maybe it was like Guitar Center did a drum off, or you know how they do the national modern drummer type thing. Maybe it was all 3 things, or anyways, it was a drum situation, and Mike's a badass. We were there, basically one of the bands performing, because it's mostly kids playing drum solos and stuff, getting voted on. I think that's what was happening there at that time. Uh, and we got our plaques backstage, and I remember just seeing that platinum record is like, it's so cool. I mean, any platinum record looks just amazing. It could
It's
be
so
anybody.
pretty.
It is. And then, but when it's your band, your baby, it's a weird vibe, man. And I want to say, who cares? You again, back to the hobby or whatever. Where I want to be is in this chair, just looping a friend's music. So what am I going to put to this? But I got to admit that it's like, it's special, and again, I could say with one side of my mouth that I don't care, but then all of a sudden you hand someone an accolade for their work, and then all of a sudden you do care. So it's a bit of both, and yeah, so that was a nice memory for me. I think being at that House of Blues backstage, and um, I remember I had these tan corduroy pants with embroidered mallard ducks all over them, and that's how seriously I
So
took
cool. So
be-
cool.
being a cool being a cool rock and roll frontman. I was wearing the most ridiculous grandpa attire that you could wear. So yikes.
I think maybe the best way to look at a platinum plaque is that instead of thinking, oh, it's not about the sales, you can look at it as, wow, like a million people enjoyed the music that we created. Maybe that's like the more wholesome way to look at it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that is a cool way to look at it. And yeah, it's one of those things. I have my wife and I were um, clearing out our closet, and we had gotten nominated for a Grammy. We didn't win it. Lincoln Park won it, but I have the invite and this beautiful. My mom actually made it in a shadow box, and it's got the Grammy. I don't know. It's like a medal or some sort. Anyways, I hadn't seen it in years. It's literally in my closet. It's not because I don't care about it, because when I saw it, and my face just lit up. Um, but yeah, there's only a couple little things that, aside from just loving the music and going out and doing it. But yeah, the gold record, the platinum record, that Grammy nomination, um, that stuff's it's pretty badass. And at the same time, does it change your everyday life? That much? Maybe not. Especially after years and years and years after you've you know spent your money or whatever you've done.
Is it true that Smooth Criminal was kind of an accidental hit where you guys were thinking maybe you would release it later on as a single? Like maybe when you're done promoting that album and you're about to work on the next one, you'd let that song kind of simmer in between albums. But some radio stations started playing it, and there was such demand in places like New York City that you had to almost like you were in a good way, you were kind of forced into like, well, we got to go with where the momentum is.
Yeah, and I think DreamWorks maybe wanted to throw that in there, unbeknownst to us, or not unbeknownst, but against. I'm sure we would have like maybe begged them not to do it at the time they had done it. Um, it's weird. It's weird to be upset about a song going gangbusters, and creating a life for you. How do you compartmentalize, or how do you make that make sense? How I remember being like frustrated and angry about something that was truly like kind of magical at the same time. And again, I'm not, no one was like, I don't know how we spent that much time being upset about it. You have these visions. Every plan is, what's the Mike Tyson, everyone's got
Until
a
you get
plan
punched
until
in
you
the
get
face.
punched. So yeah, I think we wanted to come up with, it's some weird way. I thought 100,000 records were going to sell on our first record, and that would just be the best, and then our second record, maybe with flirt with 250, or maybe even go gold, and then our third record will be the one that, I don't know why I'm prolonging this career to make it to where it's some
You want like a Bruce
unattainable.
Springsteen, like slow burn into success.
I don't know what it was, but yeah. And so, to see someone light the M80, you're like, no, don't light that yet, and I guess that's kind of the feeling that was there. It wasn't who knows, but yeah, things happen, and I feel like for as young as we were and as crazy as we were, I felt like I think we carried all that with some dignity and some grace that I didn't think I really had. So that was pretty cool. I think all of us together, were a cooler, a cooler picture than us as separate people.
Smooth Criminal goes to number one in the US and Australia. It goes gold, platinum, multi platinum in different countries. I was 16 when Anthology came out. So when I heard Smooth Criminal, I only knew the Alien Ant Farm version, and later on I find out it's originally a Michael Jackson hit. Did you hear that a lot from younger fans, or does everyone knew except me that it was Michael Jackson?
There was probably a healthy portion, like, 25% DQ that didn't know. You probably found out pretty fast that it wasn't us anyways. That was I think that was what was cool about the choice of cover too, is that we didn't just go for the big MJ hit, like, where you like Beat It or Thriller,
Billie Jean.
Smooth Crim, Billie Jean. Yeah, I mean those were the obvious. Um, I was kind of cool that we kind of hit that one that, I mean, obviously everything that Michael Jackson touched seemed to be popular, but Smooth Criminal wasn't this juggernaut hit from his camp. I think I had heard a story that that Michael liked the song and Quincy Jones wasn't like a huge fan of it, and Michael kept telling Quincy Jones that it was indeed a hit and it wasn't not like and they did it, and it never became a number one with Michael, and then it did with us. And the rumor is that Michael told Quincy, "I told you that it was the number one hit." So that, just to be in the conversation with those kind of like people, is pretty hilarious to me, and awesome. It's cool. Have some clips that we've actually been closing our show with Michael just speaking kind of cool about the band and loving the song. I mean, like, oh my gosh, that is the coolest. That's the platinum record right there. Is having Michael Jackson say that song is fucking dope.
Mike Cosgrove said at one point he looked out into the crowd and someone had a t-shirt that said, "You just moshed to Michael Jackson."
Yeah, no, that's the weird one, dude. And again, we're this band where we can get real heavy, and then we 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 make so many left turns. I almost feel like we're putting a lot on the shoulders of fans to keep this energy vibe going, because we're changing the vibe so much at times. Um, but yeah, moshing to MJ, what a crazy little thought that is. And yeah, we come from some weird, wonderful places in music that sometimes are not. You would. I still look out to our own music sometimes, and I see kids just kind of like tearing it up, and I'm like, wow, this is a quirky love song, and these guys are beating the crap out of each other. Maybe they're just hammered. I don't know. They got to get their wiggles out.
In 2003, you guys released the follow-up album True Ant. There's two singles, These Days and Glow. These Days was a top 20 hit on the Billboard rock charts, and Glow was a top 5 hit in New Zealand, and it went gold over there. One thing that stands out to me is the album was produced by the DeLeo brothers from the Stone Temple Pilots. We have a fan question from Evan Hilzer that just says, "What are your favorite memories from the DeLeo brothers and the True Ant album?"
Dude, every day with Robert and Dean DeLeo was amazing. Um, Simply amazing. They're the funniest people on the planet. They're the most non-serious people on the planet, and completely serious at the same time. It was crazy to just be in their presence. Um,
They're such
Again,
great
my own.
musicians. They're so talented.
They are, dude, and my psychosis or whatever. Again, just being in my own head, knowing that they're, Scott Weiland, and who the hell am I? And again, I'm not in their band, but I wish I had enjoyed that experience a little bit more than I had. But we had such a great time. We were actually at the Morning View house, where Incubus recorded Morning View. It's this crazy mansion up in Malibu. And we didn't record there because it's not a studio. I think Incubus brought in all the gear to make the house a studio. It's just a house, but a beautiful one, man. It was such a great weird experience to be these crazy kids in this mansion in Malibu at the 40,000 square foot home. Um, and the DeLeos are showing up every day. So we're writing 24 hours a day, but plenty shenanigans. Every night was crazy over at that house. Hanging out with the 311 guys a little bit over there. Robert and Dean. I think my favorite memory is Dean uh, taking me horseback riding. And I had broken my neck from the bus crash, and I was still semi reluctant and hesitant about a lot of things because of that injury, that broken neck.
That's
I had my first,
understandable.
yeah, my first and second vertebrae were fused together, and I lost a lot of my left to right motion. I think even now when people you'd see me, I usually kind of turn in with my chest. Anyways, I was really scared to go horseback riding. No, I shouldn't say really scared. I was like, I don't know, dude. I think I'm good. And those animals are big, and when they get spooked, kind of thing, you know. And Dean said, "Well, oh, I think I'll put you on. What did he have? I think Homer and Scout. I think he said, I'll put you on Homer. He's chill, you know, he's older and he or Romer, I think Romer and Scout. Anyways, he's like, I'll put you on the listen to his name. How dangerous could Romer be? You know, and I'm like, all right, this fucker's talking me into it. And then again, I'm like, dude, how am I turning down going horseback riding with Dean DeLeo, you know what I mean? In the Malibu Hills. So I finally say, okay, we're doing this. We're gonna do it. I'm gonna talk myself into it. And the first 100 feet of the trail, there's a rattlesnake on the trail, and my horse is rearing up. And then I remember I'm all, see, Dean, I told you. Like it's funny that I was like screaming at the guitar player from Stone Temple Pilots, who's a hero. I'm like telling him he's an asshole, basically. Anyways, after the little rattlesnake surprise, we had a beautiful day, and it was, yeah, that's probably my coolest memory. And it's not a musical one, but it was just cool to be out there with him and talk about all the weird things that you can imagine, you know.
You guys released an iconic music video for the single These Days where you crashed the BET Awards. This is like reality TV almost. Did you guys really get arrested after that music video?
No, it's kind of painted that way. They were pissed. The cops were like, everyone's going to jail, you know. I mean, I think what perturbed them the most was that we had actually deadbolted a couple of locks on the way up. So once they figured out, because we had basically, we went up there. We were on the Jimmy Kimmel building, and we said, um, well, we had said, they said, you guys can't be up there. We're shooting the BET Awards. Well, we're just setting up. We're doing a video like the next day. It's not even to do with you guys. And they were like, oh, okay. You know, it was literally like that easy. And then, but knowing full well that we were full of shit and that we were going to crash the BET Awards.
So
And
sneaky.
so because we had a huge PA up there. So, because you obviously, when you're making a video, you're just lip syncing, you're miming it. So we played These Days probably about 4 times. So that's like maybe 12 to 15 minutes of loud PA when they're broadcasting. You know, they couldn't use any of that footage. So they went, it was live. So they went straight to commercial. They played some videos. I mean, they had to take up that 12 minutes of time. You know, we basically screwed up their broadcasts, and so they were pissed, BT, and the cops were super pissed that we had deadbolted or padlocked the locks. They had to get bolt cutters. So when they got we scurried. Terry and I think we ran to like an In-N-Out burger. We went down the freaking steps and ran like down the road. Remember looking at each other like, did we just do that? Like, also like, I hope we got everything we needed, because you can't go back
There's
really
no
and make.
retakes on that one.
There's no retakes. So yeah, the cops were pissed. Everything kind of got ironed out. Minus, we got fined. It's crazy because it was actually like a cheap video, and then it ended up being a pretty expensive video. I mean, I think we got fined like 40 grand for like the big, not, we got fined way more than that, but but just the banner that we dropped wasn't flame retardant. So they were like looking for things to kind of slap us on the wrist with. And a
Noise
big
pollution,
noise,
disturbing the peace.
a big 40K fine for a backdrop is like, that's a big video right there, just the fine. So anyways, we got a great video out of it, and I don't think we bummed anyone. I think we bummed BET out, but I don't think we bummed any of the artists or anyone out there. I'm sure it was just business as usual after the 12 minutes.
In 2006, you guys released the album Up in the Attic. So you guys had self-released an album that you called The Third Draft, and then this is that album, but adding one more song, which was the single Forgive and Forget.
Yeah, yeah. We did that at NRG, back to NRG, which was really, really cool. The Delios we had done at a studio called Conway. Sorry, just to rewind. We did all the pre-production with the Delios at the Incubus Morning View house, and then we recorded at a studio called Conway, which is beautiful in its own right. And then the record after, we went back to NRG, but we brought Jim with us, Jim Wirt. The first guy, the Incubus Science guy, the Hoobastank guy, the very first inklings of Ant Farm guy. So it was nice to get Jim back in the fold and make that record.
Between albums, there's a lot of stuff going on with the label where one label goes under, then a label gets bought. There's lots of weird shifting going on. For Up in the Attic, you guys are an independent band at that point?
I'm trying to think of how it went out. We got, I think Geffen was there helping us because we went we went back to Morning View for pre-production on that record. And there's no way in hell that we were gonna like pay. I don't even know what the cost of that for 45 days was. Um, a girl named Polly Anthony, who is a CEO, I think she's passed away since too, and young. Polly Anthony was liked Ant Farm for whatever reason. I appreciate that she did because she was the head honcho over there. I feel like a Geffen or a subsidiary. It was so fragmented and weird back then, and we're walking into the Geffen building, but not really knowing if you have a Geffen deal. Anyways, Polly Anthony, she was kind of the green light for, in my recollection. Again, you're talking to a 49-year-old who was all sauced up back then. I was kind of, um, but yeah, she championed Ant Farm and gave us. I remember walking into her office, showing her a few demos that were on the third draft up in the attic, and she said, "Okay, great. Well, what do you guys want to do? How do you want to do this?" And some of us, I think maybe we all chimed in and said, "Going back to Morning View would be nice." For our own selfish reasons, you don't need to go to that house to make a record. You know what I mean? But why not? If someone's gonna let you go to a mansion in Malibu, um, and she totally approved it, and we got a great record out of it, and fun times.
So there's Alien Ant Farm Greatest Hits albums that come out in 2008 and 2013. Man, most bands don't get one hit. For a band to have enough for a Greatest Hits album, is that an honor? Or is it, a record label wants to put out a greatest hits because it's a low energy way of more sales?
Yeah, I think this latter is the case. I think we're worthy of some hits. Again, we've been called, maybe a one-hit wonder in a weird way. Not in a weird way. Like some people only know Smooth Criminal. So, so to validate a true greatest hits, um, I don't know that me, if I was a CEO at a record company, I don't know that I would grant Alien Ant Farm like a true greatest hits. I don't know what entails a true greatest hits in my mind, but it's cool. Like we got to string together some songs for that um, little collage of music. But yeah, I mean it is what it is. We're not going to say like no.
So there's a 9 year gap, and then the album Always and Forever comes out in 2015. There's two singles, Let 'Em Know and Homage. This is produced by Johnny K, who's like a mega producer that's worked with Disturbed, Stain, Megadeth, Seven Dust. How do you end up working with him, and what does he bring to the table?
Let's see. We kind of lived at Johnny K had this studio called Groove Masters in Chicago, and that was a wild time. That was peak. That was peak drunk Dryden, and probably drunk others. Um, a lot of collabs went down in that room where we were bringing in a, a friend of ours named Jacob Cap was kind of the financier of that, and was trying to find some different avenues for Ant Farm. So we were doing co-writes a lot. Some of them were really fun and cool, and some of them were weird, just depending on what day you got me and what day I got them. You know, it's like, it's, you know, two different worlds. I don't want to do a co-write on a given day. I want to write my own song that day. And I don't mean I'm talking of, I'm almost speaking for the band in that
The
regard.
royal
We're
we.
well, the royal we, or the royal I. Um,
Is that how you ended up with
yeah.
rapping on the song Our Time with the co-writes?
Zeely. That Zeely was cool. Yeah, he was one of the, he was a co-write for sure. Yeah, you know, he was, I shouldn't say was, he is. That was fun. You know, again, that was one of those ones that worked for us. You know, so yeah, we were in that room trying to make the most and best of living there, and we weren't writing an Ant Farm record. Um, I felt like maybe half the songs on that record show some Ant Farm, and the other half are throwing, you know, co-writes at the wall and seeing seeing what goes. This Ant Farm thing is this big book. You're almost turning the pages for me. There's so much to it that it's like, um, we've given ourselves, for better or worse, chances to try different things, fall on our face or semi success. We're just trying to keep this brand and the wheel turning. You know what I mean? We've left this little Ant Farm plant for dead a few times, and it didn't die. And you know, you try and water this thing and try and grow it, and however you can. And sometimes it's money driven, sometimes it's purely art driven. A little bit of both is kind of obviously the thing that everyone would want. Sometimes that doesn't happen, and again, then you flip the page. You know, if someone doesn't like what we're doing, um, you might ask me on a given day, and I'm going to say I didn't like it either. You know, and I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus or any of that. I was half coherent when I was there, and still am. Um, so yeah, we're just trying things, you know, and sometimes it's fun, and sometimes it's work, and all the things. All it's just, this is a big old life we got here.
So I reached out to one mega producer, Johnny K, and I got something short and sweet for you. Johnny K says Dryden was great to work with. He always brought positive energy to the sessions. That's from Johnny K. Short and sweet, in and out, baby.
Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, Johnny was, that room he had was incredible. Living there, uh, I wish I had a different mindset. Yeah, I felt like it's just having more. It was it was a weird time. I would, that one I maybe would like to try it, swing for the fences a little more on that one. No fault of Johnny's, honestly. Johnny K is cool as hell. Um, I think my child Millie, I think Amelia was, uh, well, well, I'd say I think Amelia was conceived at Groove Masters. There was a big bathroom in there that was like a shower. Not to give too much information,
So it
but
was a memorable album.
dude, if,
There were some good
for
times at least.
for Amelia alone, Chicago and Johnny K and that beautiful shower, uh, there you go, man. That's it.
That's amazing. In 2024, you guys release your newest album, Mantras. This comes after another 9 year gap. In your defense, there is a global pandemic that shuts things down for a few years. The album had 4 singles. I've listened to the entire Alien Ant Farm discography many times for the mic interview, for this interview, and I have to say, this album sounds incredible. It's like a warm, thick, pleasant listen. And this was recorded at Mike's. Is this correct?
It was recorded at Mike's a little bit, a lot vocally at right here at this chair. I sit down and sing unless I'm at someone else's place. Then they don't give me a seat or anywhere's. That not to say that I don't kind of ask for a seat, but yeah, almost all of it was done at Mike's. I think I did some singing at Terry's even one day, but yeah, just home style. And it's amazing what you can do when you put love into it. Also, not to say that we didn't use great microphones from Stephen Slate, even vintage mics, engineering from Cosgrove. David Cobb was engineering, a great friend of ours. David, hi Dave, if you ever see this, I miss you, brother. Engineering from me, doing my own vocals. And SJ, she's phenomenal motivator, got us off our asses. Lucas D'Angelo, who's in France, is one of my favorite mixers. My favorite mixer, straight up. So it wasn't just Ant Farm, you know what I mean? It takes, but you know, I felt like we put extra love into that one. I'm the kind of guy that really wants to do like 100 takes, 30 takes, 60 takes, 80 takes, 100 takes, and then, um, and then the tedious task of kind of listening to every single one and start carving up in that way. I can get it done with less takes. I understand, but um, that's the coolness, and I think that the love there too. Like, I want every inflection. I want every. It might go unnoticed to some people, but I know it's there. I know that backup vocal's there. It's buried. It's there. It's causing. It's creating this emotion in my eyes. Lucas gets it. SJ gets it. Ant Farm gets it. That's why we're doing this thing. It's fun, right? Remember that this stuff is fun. Sometimes there's a bottom line, or I know people are spending time on this thing. No one's going to spend the time that you will on the thing that you love. Nobody's going to do it, and I don't expect anybody to, you know what I mean? So sometimes for a record like Mantras, I think best case scenario kind of happened. I think the songs were cool, and the energy put into the songs were cool. So that was like a good one, and it's my favorite Ant Farm record right now. I mean, maybe that changes or whatever as time kind of goes on. Like I said, that big book that the book isn't just the songs; it's just like all our bullshit. And yeah, that's my favorite. That's my favorite Ant Farm record, Montrose.
So I think your voice on that album has never sounded better. Like I think the voice sounds incredible between the performance and the recording of it. And you guys got a great review from Metal Hammer where the guy agrees with me. He says Dryden Mitchell's voice, which still sounds remarkably crisp and distinctive, immediately unlocks a million teenage memories. Side note, Smooth Criminal is still one of the best rock covers of all time. That's from Metal Hammer magazine.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's spend the time. That's what I like, want to do. Again, I'm an insecure dude. I want to make sure I get it right. And live shows is a whole different animal, and I can pull it off. Some days I can't. Some days I can. 49 years old. I feel like a little wear and tear. Um, but when I'm recording, I do want that ability to to spend the time and make it right. This is like, I don't know. When you're signing a yearbook to someone to have a bitch in summer, you don't want to like drag your hand across and smear it. It's forever. It's just like this little thing, and I love that we kind of made sure so many times changing one little nuance and sending it back to Mike to send to Lucas, something that no one's gonna give a shit about, but it's like in your own head at that moment, like this has to happen, or it's like it. I like that. I like that stuff.
How has the feedback been for the album over the last 2 years? My favorite song is Last Dance. Is that one of your favorite songs on the album?
Yeah, for sure. For the purpose of it being a deliverable, palatable song that should be on the radio, that should be like representative of. To me, it's like the modern day, like Sticks and Stones was a song that was never an Ant Farm single on the first record, but probably should have been. But best represents the band. I feel like for as an active rock kind of um, portrayal or our investment, this is our version of a heavy, concise, tight song. I feel like Last Dance is that version on this record. There was some rewrites I had done, um, where in times past I might have just gone with the first idea or something, but I was like, no, I feel like I could beat this. Last Dance was kind of one of those ones where I had felt like I had something cool, and then just went like, no, you got to go back, get the dogs in the car, go back to the park, and just sit with this one. It's something special musically. You gotta deliver your part to it, and so I'm glad I kind of spent that time to do it for myself, for the guys, for the listener.
The Mantras album is important because it was during that period that you got sober. And we have a fan question from Rosalind Curry. The question is, if he's open to it, I'd be really interested to hear more about his path to sobriety.
The path is, um I don't know how. I'm trying to think. It's uh, there was no there was no rock bottom, I guess. People hit. I mean, I probably had 50 rock bottoms, or what should have been, but I was so resilient that I could just get fucked up again and again and again. There was probably a few bottoms for sure, embarrassing moments or things you've said to a loved one, and uh extremely verbally violent person once that switch is goes off. You know what I mean? And don't remember half the things I've said. I'm not like a fighter or anything, but I definitely know how to use words for love and for hate, and maybe that's my uber talent of saying something sweet all of a sudden turns, there's a flip side to the coin, man.
The
And
gift
I
and the
think
curse
just,
of a lyricist, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah, right, dude. If you, no one's got the last word like me, dude. And if I'm not on your side, I will say the thing that cuts you the deepest or whatever, and it's lame. It's flat out lame, and it's easy. You know what I mean? And it's just, I don't know. I got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I've heard that all before, and yeah, and it just started to be. I liked cocaine a lot. I actually found out. I think I just liked drinking so much, and Coke let me sobered me up, so I could just drink longer and longer and longer. I don't think I really had any love for Coke the way I did for alcohol. It was almost like a tool to get me just to prolong the vodka, prolong the night. I'm good at heart. I just kept wanting to keep going. I envy these people that can. I shouldn't say I envy them because I don't even want to drink, but I know a couple people that can kind of take it or leave it, and I'm just not that person. I know I didn't do the AA thing. I have it in the past, and it's great for whatever causes you to not drink, do that. If I felt like I needed AA, and not saying I don't need it, that I would do it, and I have done it. I think that the circle of AA that I was in Huntington Beach, a few of the meetings there, were some very suspect people, had way bigger problems than I did. Not that I feel better than or anything, but I just knew I didn't want to be in those meetings. So it was a weird turnoff in a way. Maybe I just didn't find the right meeting or something. Maybe it's something that I will visit again in the future. It's a long life, and maybe if I need to be around people that struggle, I'll definitely go there. I would gladly go there before I drank again. Um, but yeah, just partying almost by myself, drinking, going into my bathroom to get a little bumpy and weird. That everyone knows, kind of, Coke used to be this freely shared thing in the 70s and this social drug. There was nothing social about it for me other than, I don't know. I never did blow when I was not drinking. It was like, it was gross to me unless I had a few. And so yeah, that just prolonged the drink. That just got me to my true love, vodka. And I just, one night, for whatever reason, I sick and tired of being sick and tired. Um, just decided that was my last little satchel of freaking white powder and my last Costco bottle of big old handle of vodka. And I stopped whenever, I think November 2nd or 3rd or 4th, somewhere in that realm. It's 4 years and some change now. And yeah, I just felt like I couldn't do it anymore. It was boring. It was sad. It was all the things. I remember crying that night because I forgot about my broken neck, and I have a lot of nerve damage. And so I remember thinking, oh no, alcohol actually does serve one good purpose of numbing this nerve damage. And I remember thinking, okay, I don't know how you're going to fare with that part of it. And I remember having a good little cry, a little pity party, that I wasn't going to have my medicine anymore. And I just said, when that nerve damage comes to rear its ugly head, you got to figure out another way and deal with it. But you're not drinking, and I've held true to it, and not a drop, since, what was it again? Yeah, 4 years and 4 months or something like that. Something like, well, I'm working on it. I don't have any desire. It's crazy, this whole climbing out of infancy at 45 years old is crazy, and I'm embarrassed to say it, but at least I got there, and just dealing with it. And quitting drinking is, I don't know that it solved any problems, but it shined a big bright light on all my problems, which was even scarier. All the things, man. It was a weird little thing that I still deal with. I had no idea how much anxiety that I have or developed. Um, it's weird. It's weird to learn about yourself, and half of it you like, and half of it you don't really dig that much. So I'm figuring it out. I'm learning and trying, and I'm not drinking, so that's cool. It was way too long of a sermon to whoever asked, but there it is. That that was my path. I had done 17 months years ago. I knew then that I wasn't done. Um, I knew that I would drink again, and I knew now this round that I was done. That's not to say I won't drink again, but I know I'm not drinking again. So that's where we're at.
And how do you feel over the last 4 years where you're now experiencing life without the drinking and the drugs?
Oh, dude, it changes. It changes every 15 minutes. I feel like a big baby. I feel like a complainer. I feel like an achiever. I feel like one of the best singers in rock and roll. I feel like I don't even belong on the pages of some of these great people. I feel all those little raw things, man. More often than not, I feel the lamer part, which is sad to say. Drinking's way drink, being being free from drink is way better. But it's not to say it didn't come with all this stuff that I had no clue. I might have just stayed freaking drinking, which is lame to say, but I'm glad I didn't, and I'm glad I'm here. And I show up. I show up for people, and you know, that's what it's. This is where we're at.
Well, thank you for the honesty and just sharing what your experience was. It helps other people that are going through that. And the person definitely got their question answered, which is what we wanted, right? We want your
Yeah,
point of view
I've
of what
been.
you've been through.
Yeah, I've had a few randoms. Um, I've said just, hey, DM me anytime you want if you're having a tough time. I don't mind it. Um no, I don't know anything more than anyone else other than if you're talking to me, like probably like I will share a lot of honesty with you, and I'll tell you, I'll tell you a handful of things you don't want to hear about why you're still drinking. And yeah, I make myself a little like available for something that important. Sometimes I ignore a lot of just random pleasantries too, just on any given day. But if someone's having a problem, I know it doesn't. I don't know. I'll spend half a day with you, man. If it, just it's important.
Well, if you've been sober for 4 years now, you're doing something right, and it'll help someone that doesn't have any days being sober.
Right, for sure. And if you fall, you just kind of do it again. I don't want to treat it that lightly that if I fall, like I would be hugely depressed. But yeah, you just get up and start again, I guess, I don't want to slip rungs down that ladder though, and I don't really have any desire to go to that place. I'm tired enough. I don't need to that just tire me altogether.
So we've made it all the way from your earliest musical memory up to present day, and there's a lot to get excited about. You guys last year signed with Judge and Jury Records. This is a partnership between Neil Sanderson, the drummer from 3 Days Grace, and Howard Benson, the mega producer that's done incredible albums for POD, My Chemical Romance, 3 Days Grace, lots of great bands. How did you attract the attention of Judge and Jury?
I think we're at a festival in maybe St. Louis, or I forget what city we were at. We were at a festival, anyways. Basically, next door neighbors in the back, dressing room, little compound there, and we were next butted up to 3 Days Grace, and I started talking to Neil, just small talk, really, and told him that I was a fan of their music and their success and all the things really, and we traded numbers that day, and it kind of just went from there. I had no idea that this was kind of coming about or anything. I just thought we had traded numbers, and then I think I got on the phone with Howard and Neil a couple weeks later. It might have been a couple days, but it felt like maybe it was a couple weeks. And then just talked there. We were still touring, um, and I'm trying to think what city. It doesn't matter. But anyways, yeah, got on the phone with Howard and Neil. Talked about you know possibly recording, and yeah, and then we actually started to record. We've done 4 songs. We've done 4 songs already. The band has done 4 more, so that's 8 total. And then I've only done 4. I'm going on Friday and Saturday. In fact, I didn't know what this week was going to look like, so I didn't want to flake on you. But it has in the past. It has been like, hey, you come over tomorrow, kind of thing. So I didn't want to slip out on you by any means. So yeah, Friday and Saturday, I'm gonna do vocals at Howard's. They do. He's got a studio in Calabasas where the music's done, and then a lot of his vocals are done at his home. He has a vocal, just a real small vocal booth. He's got a great engineer named Hatch there, so it's just Howard, Hatch, and I, and and we just kind of hash it out, and you know, do it like that.
So I reached out to Howard and I got some kind words. And Howard says, I've wanted to work with him for a long time. He has that essential, unique approach to his phrasing that a producer is looking for. We just released a great track called Reasons, and he killed it. That's from Howard Benson.
Oh, cool, nice. Yeah, no, he's obviously, dude, the resume, and he's very nice, he's very cool, and I'm intimidated by everyone, so of course I'm being intimidated by Howard. Um, that's my own problem. So yeah, it's been eye opening, and the whole experience has been a trip. I'm curious to see how it all like kind of gels and comes together. Doing this in pieces, which is different, and that's fine by me. There's no rhyme or reason. Like there's no method to any of this stuff. Everything's different each and every time. Um, so yeah, I'm just more curious as to how it's going to sound like as a collection, and I want to do the best I can and contribute and do my part, and do my work, and hopefully it works out good.
So you've released three new singles over the last few months. So there's two new versions of the song Attitude. There's kind of a punk version, kind of, I don't know, would you describe it like Latin or Spanish or flamenco? I don't know how you describe the second
Yeah,
one.
maybe like half mariachi, half. Yeah, it's just a little hybrid of sorts. Yeah, those were. I don't know if they were singles per se. I think we're just trying to create content and keep our ball rolling forward and positive. And I think we got it in our heads to do a punk version of Attitude because Attitude, the original, is so not punk. Um,
Attitude didn't have
and then
enough
we kind of,
attitude.
yeah, we just thought it was a fun project, and to go deep on it. I think we've done our homework when it comes to vibing on a style or something. It's not like we hear a ska song, so we go. I think we go take it a little further, for better or worse. But yeah, we kind of like put on our punk rock mining helmets and kind of went down the tribute list. I'm pulling from a lot of bands that people might not hear, but I hear it, and I'm trying to get some from Sum 41 to just there's little tiny moments where it's like a cadence thing, or you know anyways, too much time on my hands, I guess. And for all the guys, it's fun for us to kind of wait, well, how would Bad Brains do this part? um how would Mike Ness do the uh I don't know. Your attitude, your solitude is welcome. It's just kind of these various heroes in that genre. Little tip of the cap, or whatever. Was just our fun way. These guys aren't even gonna hear this damn song, but we wanted to make it right and appropriate, and the way Ant Farm would do it is exactly how it was done. And the mariachi version again was almost us just, yeah, trying to get a little more blood out of that stone. In fact, I'd seen some comments about just like almost dissing the song because I don't know how to speak Spanish. Everything I said on there is exactly how I wanted to say it. The English in the original Attitude is pretty broken up English in and of itself. I, my mom's from Chihuahua. I could have made it more cohesive and mean something, but I just straight up didn't. There was some weird comments about that we're just putting out Attitude out over and over again. It really didn't take that much time. We did two cover songs of our own song. It was fun for us. Again, maybe I'm reading too many of the negative stuff. There's a whole lot of positive about it. I had fun doing it. I love the original attitude. I love the punk attitude. I love the mariachi attitude.
You're gonna break into the Spanish market with that version.
Well, maybe not. I don't know how to speak Spanish, so we'll be just fine.
We have a fan question about the different versions of Attitude. This is from Brett Hill. The question is, if Ant Farm were to do one more version of Attitude, just to piss off the people that are saying, oh, you've done too many versions already. If you did one more version, what style or genre would you choose to do next? Hip hop, baby.
I, I
Hip
would,
hop.
I would maybe, yeah. Well, yeah. Just per your suggestion, I would just do it per your suggestion. I was thinking of like maybe like a crooner, like that would probably be too easy though. Going down, I don't know that there's too much of a rabbit hole to go down the crooner version because it would just be like you remember like Richard Cheese doing all the like the heavy songs, but done in that like swingy kind of way. So that almost writes itself. I think the hip hop version would be much more enticing and alluring because, again, I feel like or would it get other artists to do it, but would maybe go down that rabbit hole and have like a Tupac sounding verse, have Biggie, have to maybe just try and somehow, some way pull some of the greats into our version. You know, that sounds kind of interesting to me.
I think Mike would have fun programming drums for a hip hop version.
Yeah, we have a song. It's probably we haven't recorded it with Judge and Jury yet. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But Mike wrote a song called "The Longest Road," where he doesn't play drums on it, and I'm like, dude, what the hell? You wrote this? Our drummer wrote the song, and there's no drums on it. It's one of my favorite songs of Ant Farm, like ever. Just the sentiment, the quirkiness of it, the lyric of it. So, but yeah, it's funny that a favorite song of mine doesn't have drums on it.
He wrote himself right out of the song.
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of cool too, though. Like drummer wrote this cool song and he doesn't play drums.
Well, that means he has to not have an ego if he can write a song and not feel the need to push himself into it.
Yeah, and who knows? It's just a demo, but we'll see if drums get attached to it or not, or if we even record it or not. But I hope that we do because it's a good one.
So the two versions of Attitude, you see those more as, say, fan service, and then the new single Reasons that came out, I think on Friday. It's been out just a few days. That sounds like a hit single. Do you see that as maybe the first single of the upcoming project?
Yeah, that's kind of more the plan. I think Judge and Jury, although they serviced it and helped us with the two attitudes, I think they were even a little hesitant on what's going on here. Should we sit on these? Should we put them out? Then the longer it took for us to get our ducks in a row, I think we all collectively thought it would be cool to, like, just for content's sake, put those songs out. We had already, were well on our way. We'd either finished recording or those were already kind of in the can before Judge and Jury was a relationship with us. They helped us, release those, but in it wasn't part of the process of where we're at now.
So you've mentioned 8 songs. Are you guys planning on releasing an EP or a full length? Do you know that yet?
I think it's going to be a record, but I don't know yet. We're just going as we're going. We're trying to like collect this collage and see how it goes. I'm under the assumption that we're going to do a full record, but I don't know.
There's a lot of fan interest about the new album. So I have 3 fan questions specifically about the new album. I'm just going to rapid fire through them. Bartek Samowski asks, are we getting any screaming on the new album like Wish or Whisper or SS Recognize?
Trying to think of the songs that I'm about to go in and do. I don't think so. There's some high notes, big notes, but I don't think there's gonna be any screaming. I don't think it gets that heavy. I feel like it almost gets like heavy in the Soundgarden realm of things, in like almost like a blues hybrid. I'm thinking of a specific song where I'm going to work on Friday called Code Talker, and It gets pretty heavy, but no, not any screaming like that.
So it's more just really pushing your voice and projecting versus an actual scream.
Yeah, for sure.
We have a question from Troy Fonseca. The question is, will there be any political themes on the new record, given his incredible replies on Twitter with a laughing face?
Oh my gosh. When someone called me dark woke the other day. Um,
That's how you know you're probably speaking the truth.
yeah, well, I just troll like Republican candidates and stuff, and I say the most rude, obnoxious, immature things imaginable. Just I don't even have an opinion like that's valid. At least when I write it on Twitter, I like to just the dribble they're putting out as professionalism. Can only reply with like blow dongs or something in that nature.
You're just
But
poking the bear.
yeah, no, I don't. No politics in the ant farm recordings. I got it's that's like a little maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I have emotional enough in that regard, like to. I'm definitely emotional about politics, but I don't know if I'd want to like put it into song really. There's bands that do it so tactfully and awesome that I love them too, but I don't see us being that band.
We'll leave that to Rage Against the Machine, I guess. We have a question from Nico Kornhaas. And Nico's question is, what are you most looking forward to after the release of the new album? Best regards from Essen, Germany.
What am I looking forward to after the release?
Yeah, so when you look at the future, and let's say the new album has come out, is there anything you're looking forward to after it comes out? Like maybe you're excited to tour to promote it, or maybe you're looking forward to making a music video, or maybe just the release of stress maybe that maybe you're feeling to make the album. It'll be nice once that's gone. Just anything after the album's done.
Yeah, I mean, I think you even answered it like more tactfully than I would, and I'd have to agree with it. Of just like letting it be, kind of stepping back and seeing how it serviced us, how the general public sees it, and then don't spend too much time. Like, obviously, want to do right by any recording and facilitate the songs by touring, but uh, yeah, just kind of live in real time and see where we go next. What's the what's that chapter after this chapter? I think even hugely successful things are almost kind of a blip in time, and if this happens to become hugely successful, I'm all for it. Um, Again, it's like a tiny chapter in our whole gamut. So yeah, I'd like to just after this is done, more touring and more writing, and I want to write a little bit more. Want to put out uh, yeah, just want to put out more art.
We've talked about Howard Benson being involved with some recording. I'm hearing rumors that there's a famous Canadian producer that's been working with Alien Ant Farm. I don't know if this is true or not. I don't know if this is public knowledge or if we're allowed to talk about this. You can say next question if you don't want to answer that.
Gavin, yeah,
Yeah.
Gavin Brown has come in to do the last four songs. So basically, Howard is a very vocal producer. And I know his past has probably been way more involved in that regard. We did the music with Neil, the first four songs, and Mike Plotnikoff in the other studio. And then I would do vocals with Howard. So the second round of four, Neil from 3 days left for tour, and Gavin came in to kind of oversee and help us flush out some parts via editing and adding, subtracting, kind of getting the songs in a little more um, just into tighter form. And so he helped with that at Mike's for a couple days, and then went in and basically took over overseeing the music recording of the process, kind of what Neil was doing in the first four songs. Gavin was with the final four. So it has been a little bit of Neil, Gavin, Howard.
The dream
Yeah,
team, baby.
there you go.
For our listeners who might not be familiar with Gavin Brown, he basically helped discover and produce Three Days Grace early albums and Billy Talent or the early albums. And after that success, he went and did Metric's album Fantasies, which is like multi-platinum here in Canada. He's done the Tragically Hip albums. He did Behind Me Here, where is it? The Thornley album. He did that one. So in Canada, he's like one of our great producers.
Well, besides just Canada, we knew who Gavin was, and he's such a nice guy. I feel like his handle and knowledge of music and editing and just being in the room it was awesome. I've never experienced being around him before. So we got to golf together, him and we got to cut up some songs, kind of just listen to his opinions on how these songs should kind of travel. And yeah, nothing but respect for Gavin and company for sure.
We've made it to the final quote of the interview. And the only thing better than getting kind words from one member of Alien Ant Farm is getting kind words from two members of Alien Ant Farm. So this is from Alien Ant Farm guitarist Terry Corso. Terry says, Dryden has been my favorite poet for a while. He has his own language when it comes to talking about love. Super witty and a bit cryptic. For me, he's like a DJ mashup of Pablo Neruda and T.S. Eliot. That's from Terry.
That's cool. Yeah, he's seen failed writings on the wall, and he's seen some successes from the poetry. Um, it's all good, and I don't mean like everything I do is good. I'm saying like all this creating is good, whether it's coming from us, whether it sees the light of day or not. It's all good stuff. My favorite, sorry to pick, but my favorite things are in these books, and half of them no one's gonna see. And I've never done anything on those pages that I thought was really all that terrible. I love it all. I love making it. I love throwing it away and starting again. So yeah, no, I appreciate the compliments. I'm just learning every time we finish something. I don't feel like I have a handle on this stuff. I don't know what I'm doing. Right when it's done, I feel like I'm right back to zero. And like, how do again, you could kind of bite yourself and pull something from the past, which I've done before, but essentially it's like where do you start? Some people probably more evolved and know exactly how to do this thing. I have no idea how to do it, and I'm always surprised and I'm always stoked when it comes out beautiful. I always know it will, but I just don't know how to get there until we get there. Every time I start up a session, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, and then 3 hours in, I go, "Oh, you know exactly what you're doing. This is sounding like this is a good meal. This is a very good meal right here."
Final two questions. If you could sit down next to your 10-year-old self and you could whisper words of advice, taking everything you've learned since 10 years old, all the lessons and mentorship and experiences, the goals, the highs and lows, the successes and failures, what do you whisper to cute little Dryden sitting there to help guide him through this human experience?
Uh, just be nice to your people. I'm not always nice to my people. I try to be. My intentions are always there. Um, it's like the basic things. I don't have any wisdom. It's more like just work a little more. Um, yeah, and don't care so much. It's hard to give a shit and then not. I don't know. I haven't figured out how to navigate this thing of you can't not care about anything because then you just die. But you care too much, and then all of a sudden I'm spinning off into anxieties I didn't know I had. So I don't know. I wish I could tell my younger self to not don't take this too critically, man. It's okay to mess it up. It's okay to fall around, and maybe it's okay to not satisfy people. If you're trying, it's okay to not satisfy people. If you're not, then that's a whole different, that's another animal. But yeah, try your best, and then kind of don't care after that a little bit more. I'm telling the 49-year-old me that. So
You're still learning as you go. I guess we all are. Is there anything you'd like to say to the fans that have supported the band over the last 30 years?
oh well. Well, I don't just I'm appreciative that we created this little club that we didn't know we were creating. I had no idea that people would stick around and root for us. Um, it's been a cool ride. A lot of fans that we've met become friends, and I'm sure other bands have that themselves too. But we've been very, very open with our people that come to see us live or online, and I've let fans stay at my home. It's I don't know, for better or worse, for better in that case, but um, yeah, we've been pretty loose and with our judgment and our in our little tribe. And we I don't think that when we get to hanging out with our fans, more often than not they will tell you that we're not trying to be heroes to anyone. We're just playing our silly love songs, and hopefully we can share a chair at the table with these guys and hear a little bit about their lives too. A reason to kind of get together. I feel like sometimes at our shows, I almost don't want to be I'm just happy to be an MC. This is an evening for other people. This isn't for me. Sometimes I get, wrapped up in it and enjoy it and love it and all the things, but it's really not about Ant Farm. It's like trying to recreate a memory, trying to make an evening of healthy distractions for these people. And I appreciate when you come once, but I really appreciate when you come multiple times. And it's not, we're not crazy money makers. We make a decent living, and we're stoked to have what we have, and we're stoked to have the people around us that we've claimed from bands like Papa Roach have shared their fans. Bands like 311 have shared their fans. I've met so many friends that we've glommed on to these people. POD, Hoobastank, we share them. We share them. It's not like specifically Ant Farm fans. It's like music lovers, and we're just like one little tiny pimple on the fucking big ass of rock and roll. You know what I mean?
You should name your
That's
you should we should leave it at that. But no, you should name your next album Silly Love Songs. I think that would be cool. But before we wrap up,
well.
I want to take a moment to acknowledge you for your lifelong pursuit of mastery as a singer and as a songwriter. I commend you for having a big vision for your life, for setting these ambitious goals and working towards them on a daily basis. You've shown the rest of us what's truly possible if you really apply yourself. I want to thank you for putting out great music that's become the soundtrack to the lives of millions of people around the world. I've been a fan for 25 years, so thank you for all the great music. And last but not least, I want to thank you for this interview, for sitting down with me for the last 2 hours. You've answered all my silly Alien Ant Farm questions I've been holding on to since I was 16. So Dryden, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
It's like a golf round. When you're done, you take off the cap and you say good round. You know what I mean? So I'm taking off the cap for you, brother.
Amazing. There we go. So to the Dryden Mitchell fans, to the Alien Ant Farm fans, to the podcast fans, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Who would you like me to feature next for a 2-hour deep dive interview? You can let me know in the comments. You can also send me an email at joelmartinmastery@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me on all social media platforms at joelmartinmastery. So I am done. I am complete. I approve this message, and I'll see you on the next episode.